I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis with Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Statesville, North Carolina. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
All right, welcome everybody. We are back. We're live. Um, we have a guest
Hello.
on today. Becca and myself are joined by Michelle O'Brien from, and I should have confirmed Elliot EF Gallery. How do you say the last name? You're
Elliot
from EF Gallery,
Fouts.
and I'll let
Yes.
you introduce the gallery and kind of what you do there. But Michelle is with us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. My name is Michelle O'Brien. I am the co-owner of Elliot Fouts Gallery. I've been here since I was in high school. This is my very first job and my only job that I've ever had. So I started in
Wow.
2004 working a clerical job for Elliot, and later went to UC Davis and studied art history, and continued to commute back and forth between Davis and Sacramento, which is only about a 30-minute commute. So continued to work here. Upon graduation, Elliot basically said, okay, let's do this full time, do what you want, let's see where it goes. So
Wow.
really an amazing opportunity for me. It was something that at first I wasn't sure I wanted to do. Maybe I wanted to pursue a degree, a master's degree, which was really something that the UC system pushed on us. So I thought about going to arts business school and applied to NYU, and decided after getting accepted that wasn't the route I wanted to take. I wanted practical experience. And so I stayed at the gallery, and it's been a really incredible career so far that I am really fortunate to have a mentor like Elliot, who's really enabled me to try art that might have been different than his taste, and really get a sense of what selling art is all about in a community that really supports its artists and art sales.
Wow. 2004. Wow, you've
Yeah.
gone through so many, like that's like beginnings of the internet being like huge. So like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
selling of art is probably way different when you
It
started to
is.
now.
Yeah, it's funny to see how e-commerce has really taken such a great force in selling art, and where that continues to go is something I feel like we're really in the midst of right now.
Okay. And then has the location always been the same? Is the
No,
storefront
it
changed and
hasn't.
shifted?
We were in a residential neighborhood before, and that was from 2000, let's see, 2004 to 2012. We were in a much smaller building, and then later opened this space in Midtown, which is basically four times as large. And Midtown's a really neat area that mixes residential and small businesses, restaurants. So we don't actually get a lot of walk-in traffic. It's very destination oriented. People come in for the purpose of coming into the gallery, not like, walking by and seeing the gallery and meandering in. So the space is gorgeous. It's 5,600 square feet. We have rotating exhibitions monthly. And then we have a pretty varied roster of artists that we regularly show, with kind of a focus on landscape, still life, other realist paintings.
Okay. Okay. And how big is the staff there? I know you've mentioned three
Yeah,
before
yeah,
we
there's
started
three of
talking. Is it
us.
really a tight
Yeah,
crew?
it's
It's just the
very
three?
tight. Yeah, so it's myself, Elliot, and our employee Maggie.
Wow. That's amazing. Um, yeah, the gallery's definitely evolved a lot. I know I first discovered you all probably a couple years ago from one of Jeff's videos where he's bringing in his donuts, or you all are selling the donuts, and
Hmm.
it's just the one of those things that just goes viral. I guess that you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, how I love this story. It's one of those like positive stories of, I'm a potter. I do ceramic art. I don't do sculptural stuff, but like seeing that excitement about something that somebody's made, and then the support behind it of
Totally.
everybody like, you know, getting on board to support somebody. Especially Jeff being like 50 years into his career or close to it,
I know. Yeah.
it's like wild to see that. And I'm curious, like, how did you first discover Jeff and his
Hmm.
work, and like what made you want to start that partnership together?
Yeah, Jeff has been a longtime fixture in the Sacramento ceramics community. He also went to UC Davis and had shown at another gallery called Solomon Dubnik in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when the partnership there just wasn't quite going the way he wanted it to go, he approached the gallery. This is like right when I started working there, to see if we would be interested in showing some of his work. And at the time, he was very much making what he continues to make today: cakes, other non-functional ceramics that are food themed. So all non-functional, though. That's something I really want to emphasize, is his insistence upon making ceramics that are purely for the enjoyment of looking at and interacting with, not necessarily for their functional use. But we, at the time, so I guess now it's mid 2000s, we started showing his work. They sold fairly regularly. I would say the price point is just insanely low at that point, where, I mean, I don't even know. I think it really showed Jeff's intention of just sharing his work with the world as opposed to actually making money off of it. Incredibly prolific still at the time, just churning out pieces. And it's funny because I often joke with people, I would literally have cake sales and bake sales trying to sell the work, because we had so much of it. We had, like, once we moved to this location in 2012, the volume of art just continued to increase, and the sales were kind of, they're steady. And we have a local community, like I said, that really supports his work, and they're collectors who have multiple pieces. But they couldn't keep up, like the demand wasn't keeping up with his production. So we literally had mounds of sculptures. I mean, and it wasn't necessarily a lack of quality as a reason they weren't selling. It was just because our local market had become saturated. We had so many people who were already existing collectors that kind of like that funk in his ceramics, and kind of, appreciate these pieces that are very whimsical and, like, as I mentioned, non-functional. So people are like, what do I do with these?
Right.
But that kind of in line with my own, like, personal postpartum identity crisis, I guess you could say, in like 2022-ish, is what really precipitated this idea that I had always had, and acting upon it, which was Jeff's work is universally just, there was so much universal potential, right? Like, the content of his work, the subjects, they're fun. There was so much potential for his work to sell beyond the confines of our city. And at the time, I just really wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in the gallery business, what my role is as a mom. I felt a little bit lost, but I knew there was an opportunity here, and I was really passionate about the work and passionate about Jeff. He's just a wonderful person who literally lives to make art, and that is his entire goal, is to create and enjoy that process. So I think, personally, I was really, like, trying to look for some sort of something, a greater thing for me to gain inspiration from and really be drawn to, since I had been doing this job for so long. And I just kind of felt like I was, steadily doing what I'd always done, but nothing. I needed to energize my
it's kind of at a plateau stage almost, and you're looking for that next excitement or passion. You're kind of pushing
totally. And I think Jeff's story really is what provided this infusion of energy for me. I mean, just like sharing his story gave me joy, but also seeing how others have responded to it, and seeing the impact it's had on him personally and within his art. And just, I don't even know if it's possible for Jeff to have more joy, but through this process, it seems like it's insurmountable. So it's been very fun. Hopefully that's a good little
was he already, you said that the price point was pretty low and you got introduced to his work. You said, and it didn't sound like he was living off of that money at that point. So was he doing it full time, or he was doing it like as a hobby?
He was doing it full time, and he has always lived an incredibly modest lifestyle, where he basically, makes his art, sells the work that he sells, and uses that money to buy more materials, right? So very, very modest. And I think knowing that, and wanting to give him more for what he's so talented at is part of what inspired me to really focus and hone in on him as an artist and his work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the production is amazing. Every time I see him bringing stuff in, I'm like, wow, how does he crank this out? I'm like, I don't know
yeah,
how delayed these videos are to when they get
yeah,
posted and when they get in because you got to prep for the restock. It's about like building the hype and all that. So I know
totally.
there's a lot of systems behind the scenes that need to happen to schedule things appropriately.
Yeah. I think it's twofold. So, like you mentioned, we are constantly stockpiling work in order to create a great enough variety, first and foremost, and second of all, enough inventory to offer the collectors so that there's something for them to purchase. So, over the course of anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, we're constantly stockpiling the work that he brings in, and he brings them in basically smaller loads of like 100 donuts at a time in those
That's still a
those
lot. Yeah.
very, yeah, I know, those berry flats that you always see from Costco that we have them all in. So he
Yep.
brings them in and we put them in the back. Right away we stick the hangers on the back of them because that's just a tedious task that always needs to be done, but we do that work for him. He doesn't do that. And then we set them aside and then throughout the month continue to stockpile till we have a quantity that we're mutually happy with. And then at that point, that's where we start, taking some videos and then curating the collections so that the sets are done. The individual single donuts that we've selected for sale are set aside, labeling them, wrapping them, all of that behind the scenes work kind of has a cadence that Maggie and I have figured out what works best, what makes it smoothest, how do we mitigate any potential errors. So that's part one. Part two is Jeff is a very incredible individual that most people do not get the chance to meet in their life. He is one of one in that he literally spends the majority of his time making art, and it's honestly amazing because when asking him, like, how many hours a day are you spending on making your art, I think the assumption is that he spends like 23 out of 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
And really he doesn't. He actually has a great work-life balance where he loves going to concerts, he loves watching baseball on TV, he loves music, he has so many passions. But I think when you have that many years of experience working with one medium and you are trained in it, your education is based on working with ceramic, and you have experience as a baker, making edible creations that these are going to then look like. The combination of that is a mastery of medium that he can effectively make and churn out these pieces at a rate that you would think about, like a baker, for example. They're making dozens of
Yeah.
cookies. It's a similar thing, which
Volume.
is so, like I said, hard to comprehend someone who can do that and prioritizes that in their day every day. So
Okay. So what's the actual answer? If it's not 23 out of 24, is it like 8 hours a
no,
day?
he told me that it's like anywhere from like 5 to 6 hours a day, and that's like physically making
That sounds like a great
yeah,
spot, actually.
right,
That's
yeah,
that's my goal in life and my motto,
yeah.
to make just enough for just enough.
Hey, it's Taylor here from Backyard Kiln to tell you again how amazing my L&L kiln is. I bought it secondhand out of someone's carport with no idea if it even worked, and I learned to replace the elements and the controller and the thermocouples and install a vent system all from their free video support library. They've designed these kilns to be so user-serviceable, it doesn't take a whole lot of know-how or any fancy tools. I had never touched a kiln before, and I was able to do basic maintenance just after watching some videos. And if I ever had a question or wasn't sure what to do, I just emailed or called their customer service line, and they were able to help me right away. Even now, they still help me out for free, even though it is a super old kiln, like older than my teenager, and still working perfectly, unlike my teenager. The kiln does not complain, and it does what I ask it to the first time. Anyway, if you are thinking about buying a kiln or upgrading the one you have, definitely consider L&L. They are all I want to use for the rest of my pottery career. Check them out at hotkilns.com. That's HOTKILNS.com. Okay, back to the show.
Yeah, and I think, the physical limitations too of like it's a very methodical process with the donuts, especially. He's like forming the mound of clay, and then he's forming it with his hands. There are limitations to how much his hands can work, folding and
especially for 50
things.
years and doing baking
exactly.
for years and all this. Yeah. Becca just got hand surgery, so
okay.
she could probably understand that.
He's not a factory, even though he seems like he could be. So
yeah, some of that's a little social media magic as well, but that it's part of it. It's like having the right connection of he gets to enjoy that, and I don't know what other ways he's been selling over the years, but like finding that partnership I think is special so that he can continue doing what he loves. 100%. You can do what you're skilled in and what you all love doing. It gives you a second wind for, this part of your career. And then it like mutually is beneficial.
Yeah, I appreciate you recognizing that, because I think that contributes to his ability to focus on what he does best, right? So there isn't a lot of noise around him. He's able to create, be creative, try new techniques, discover new ways of doing what he loves to do. And on the other side, I get to do the same. I get to focus on what I do best, which is selling and marketing him as an individual, him as an artist, his work itself, and, Maggie and I working on the logistics of the volume of shipping out all of this art. But I think because we know our roles, both Jeff and the gallery, and we support each other's roles so well, we can do the best that we're capable of doing and inspire each other while doing it.
So talking about the business side of it, like what are some of the realities of running that physical and online gallery that people don't appreciate as much, whether it's the cost or time or staffing or shipping, marketing, all those different things that go into it? Like what's surprising to people that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think, we were never, I guess I had this idea in mind of, what it would mean for his work to go viral, for it to sell well. But the reality of that actually happening is that I don't know anything about logistics, right? Like when I sell art, it's typically to a customer coming in the gallery and me sending it home with them. Prior to this explosion of online sales, we did ship, nationally, but it was mostly two-dimensional art. It wasn't ceramics. Of course, now it's like, not only have we upped the volume, but also the fragility of these objects is considerably more intense. So I think just the learning curve of how to handle the demand and just learning while giving ourselves grace, because I did not anticipate the demand would be as high as it continues to be. And I think, we made mistakes along the way, like, items were broken, not a huge percent. I will say I'm very proud of us for how well, despite all of these orders, the breakage rate is incredibly low. I would say it's like down to 1% now. It's incredible for how many things we ship. But I would say just the back end is just making sure, there's so many items that look similar and trying to organize them so people get their correct flavor of donut. Things like that just seem really obvious, but are so hard when it's on that level, when you have, 10 of the same flavor of something, and just making sure. And then there's 10 flavors, right? So the opportunity for error is really present if you're not being very diligent and doing that work in the front end before things, start going.
Yeah, you've got to like keep the professional look, have it on the website, have the items match behind the scenes, but also like once you get all of them, imagining you sell out of like, I don't know how many pieces, but like, let's say 300 pieces, actually getting those together and packaging them, and also making sure that you're not like overlooking the packaging so that it's like, hey, this is the last thing that they're going to see the first thing
Right.
they're going to see when they get it, you want to experience. So,
Right. Right. That's such a good point. I think I have always really loved what goes into the experience of being a collector, receiving your art, the excitement around that, and how can we make that experience that much better. And I think that's where the pink box comes in. It's like I love the idea of surprise and delight. And I think Jeff's work is so much that this pink box arrives on your doorstep, and it's just like this little box of joy, and then you open it, and that's where the real like excitement finally like reveals itself. What does this look like in person? What does it feel like when I hold a donut? The weight of it, like, as you probably know, like your hand and how it molds the piece, and like literally fitting your hand on that sculpture and feeling that it is man-made, and like connecting somehow with Jeff because he made this and now I have a piece of it. There's just something really magical about that. And we definitely put a lot of effort in making that magic,
mhm.
as great as possible. So
Becca, go
I have a
ahead.
question.
I wasn't sure if you were hot or.
No, Ryan knows. I don't want to interrupt, but I want you to let you talk too. I think that probably a lot of people like listening, maybe they don't know Jeff or whatever, but I think that just the way you describe him probably describes a lot of artists in the sense of like they just want to make shit
Mhm.
and that's it, you know? And I think that like what he has with you guys is potentially like every artist's dream in the sense of like you guys sell it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to sell it. And I guess I guess the question is like, can you talk a little bit about like that division of labor and like what that looks like and like how that's helped him and how it's helped you, like I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but um but it just seems like you've given him such an opportunity and he's given you such an opportunity.
Mhm.
So kind of like how that looks like, especially for somebody that may be like coming up in the ranks, you know?
Yeah, I think it starts with mutual respect because so often in emerging artists, when I've you know either sought to work with somebody or they've sought to work with me, I think the boundary between self promotion and working with an artist is really blurred now, especially because of social media. And while I do encourage artists to, fully promote themselves on social media, I think there is something to be said about, like I mentioned, being able to focus truly on what you're good at. What is your priority? For some artists, the priority is to self promote, to sell the work, to make the art, to do it all, which some can totally do that. But I would say for most people, and no matter what occupation you're in, there is something to be said about staying in your lane and doing what you're truly good at and passionate about. Like for me, I don't make art, and I don't even understand all of the things that go into it. But what I do know how to do is sell art, and I do understand all the things that go into that. So when there's a professional relationship where each party is respecting and encouraging of the other to do what they're best at, I think that's what makes a really successful artist gallery partnership, allowing kind of relinquishing some of that control over the desire to try to do everything. I think that's where it becomes difficult for Jeff specifically. He just doesn't have an interest in social media, right? So that to me presented an opportunity for me to take over that and kind of go full force with that, because that would accomplish our goal of expanding the regions of his collectorship. But I think when I look at some of our strongest partnerships with artists, it's with artists who implicitly trust that we're doing the most to promote them. And it's also with artists who take feedback really well. I think that can be difficult, especially when you're so close with your work. But if your intention is to sell your work and be commercially viable, then I think being open to feedback from somebody who has experience selling is really important.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult because I know I see here and there people talk about the commission percentage, and a lot of it's
Mhm.
like, are you getting that, that percentage worth from them, and what can I do to make up that? Otherwise, like I can go to a show and make quote unquote 100%, but you're still spending a lot of effort and all that. So, um, I think the commission structure kind of gets criticized a lot, but um, I think a lot of artists don't know what goes on behind the scenes from a gallery's
Mhm.
perspective of, what that commission is getting them. And I'm curious, like, how do you think about that commission percentage and making sure that the partnership is worthwhile? That, like, do you feel like you have to explain that to them, or is it kind of understood in a way because they're coming to you and they feel like,
Yeah.
oh, I just need somebody to sell it, or I am coming to you because you're reputable and you would be a big opportunity for me to like partner with you, or how do you think about that side of it?
Yeah, I would say I I actually have never found myself in the place of having to explain what I offer. Um, I think part of that comes from a legacy reputation that Elliot has started. He opened the business in '99. We are one of the only remaining galleries in Sacramento. And like I said, we have a very strong arts community. But I think when you have a reputation where you are paying your artists, that goes so much further than anyone can ever realize. I think just integrity and the legacy that he started really is something that a lot of people want to be a part of. And I think ultimately what an artist wants to see is sales, right? So they don't, I don't think, me rattling off all the things that I'm going to be doing for the work really matters. It's like when the checks are showing up, then something is being done. And a lot of that has to do with, like I said, the legacy and having an established clientele. I mean, we have 20 plus years of clients who continue to buy. And what's also really an added bonus for our other artists is the impact that Jeff's notoriety has had on our other artists. It's just like this ripple effect. And that's been really cool as well. But I don't know if I answered that question to its
My
fullest.
question was a little rambly too because I was like trying to
Okay.
decide what was different about it from what Becca
Yeah.
was answering, but
Hmm.
um I know something about like watching those videos of, Jeff's excitement of
Hmm.
getting the checks
Yeah.
definitely resonate with me as an artist, and seeing like the because usually all of my checks when I get them, they come in the mail and I don't get that like wow factor that you
Yeah.
get and you capture on
Yeah.
video, and
Yeah.
the immediacy. And it's like celebrating the art, but also the partnership that you both have.
Hmm.
We've talked about that already, and like that trust that goes with it from the sales, the promotion. And I'm curious like what those videos have been like, and the response to those videos have been like for you on the gallery side
For
of it.
like me personally, yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's funny is Jeff has always been someone who has come into the gallery to get his check. So that's something that we've established ever since he started with us, I think. So experiencing that with him has been an experience, not to be redundant, but an experience that we've always had. So capturing that on film felt very natural because it's like I typically get the, to give him his check, and that's that. It's there was never a celebration necessarily around it before, but I think um you know being what's the word I'm looking for, being rewarded for hard work and your passion and what you love the most, there's something very universal about that. So I think those videos, whether I intended for them to blow up as big as they did, they really resonated with people who know nothing about art, who are not artists, who literally are just connecting because of that human experience, which was so cool. I did not anticipate that for so many people to cheer him on in the way that they did was like I could never have imagined that. I thought, this is a pretty cool moment. Like, let's see what happens. But there is a universal experience with that is really fun to be a part of. And I think from the gallery side, for me personally, as I mentioned, being in this place of like kind of unknown, whether I wanted to continue to even be in the art world or not, and not knowing what my role was, am I even good at this? Having that validation for me personally is like really emotional. It's like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm changing somebody's life. Like, this is incredible. And I'm exactly where I should be.
And then you're helping bring the joy of all those people that get the thing in the mail. You're part of that experience. You're going to be remembered from like them. They see the piece on the counter every day when they walk by in the
Yeah.
kitchen or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
you're a part of that.
It's just so much positivity. And I think that's what I really was wanting in my life at the time, is like this infusion of just energy, positivity, and like kind of seeing that ripple has been so great. Just like, overall in my life. So it's been really, really rewarding.
So I'm curious about like how you discover new artists for the gallery. It sounds like they're kind of coming to you these days because of the reputation. And I'm curious if there's certain qualities of the artist or the work or relationship that you're kind of looking for that tells you, hey, this is a good fit for our gallery.
Yeah, I would say it's twofold. So we do have a lot of people, getting in touch with us, interested in representation. I have less time to do outreach now because my hands are in so many different buckets. But as far as what I'm looking for the gallery, our brick and mortar really, like I mentioned at the start, specializes in landscape and still life paintings and funk ceramics. So anything that fits within, those realms that not only complements what we have here, but elevates the gallery as a whole, that's what I'm interested in. Oftentimes I get kind of blind solicitations from artists that it almost looks like they've never even looked at our roster of artists. I mean, it's pretty funny. And I get it. Like, shoot your shot. Great. But at the same time, I think when I've given advice to artists in the past, emerging artists seeking representation, my advice is always to look and see what galleries are showing work that is similar to yours, but within that realm, because you already know that collectors who like that work are coming there. And it can be kind of counterintuitive because they're like, well, I'm doing something that you don't show already, which is, that's great. But at the same time, my true specialty is what I have, on display right now. So as far as, the percentage of artists that we take on that have, submitted to us, it's pretty low because what we're doing right now is occupying so much of my time. I don't really have the bandwidth to take on more artists, and I wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't want to just take somebody on for the sake of taking their work on and not be able to devote the time and effort I want to it. But when looking for artists, when I do find myself in that position, obviously social media is such a great way to find new work and discover things that are outside of our, local bounds. And I think, that's like what most art buyers are doing too, scrolling through social media, seeing something that catches their eye. Yeah.
So does them having a social media presence and like good at marketing themselves already, does that give them a little plus in your book if you were to see that? Or is it more about the work and fitting in to the already offered work that you have, and you're on the side of like, we can promote it, we can sell it, we don't necessarily need you to promote our gallery?
I'm more concerned with the quality of art rather than how it's being marketed by the artist. That to me that's irrelevant. I think usually with the artists who have a really spectacular, place on social media that are like all dialed in, they're the ones who don't even need me, right? Or don't want that kind of relationship. So it's typically the artists who aren't focused on that, but are really talented at just making the art. That's what I'm most interested in.
Okay. Yeah, I hope that's encouraging to people that are like, I don't have a big following. I need a big following so that I
Yeah,
can get
no,
noticed
no.
by galleries so they want
Yeah,
me, so that
yeah,
they know that people already want my work. It's like you're saying the work is most important to me. I want
exactly.
it to fit so that I
Exactly.
know I can sell it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, quality is what's important to me. And it's almost, in my opinion, better to have somebody that is really green at marketing because that tells me um, how serious or how important it is for someone else to be doing that for them.
Hmm.
So I think that shows an opportunity for a
Right.
gallerist.
So what is that like great artist gallery relationship look like for you? And we don't have to go back to Jeff, but like, is
Mm-hmm.
there, a certain part of the relationship and responsibility that like feels good to you for the most part?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that, like I was saying, that mutual respect. I think understanding each other's roles. When I look at the artists who I think are the most successful in our gallery, they are the ones that, when getting direct inquiries, they're sending them my way so that I can conduct all business. And that's, I mean, that's a big deal for somebody to do that because there is obviously an opportunity for them to make 100% and not split the commission. But I think when there is that pass off, okay, hey, this is an inquiry, Michelle, you deal with this. That's great. That's my job. I'm not here, to compete with you, and I'm here to support you and help you. And I think inherently, when that trust is built, that just makes me want to sell your work even more. Like, you're a good person, and I want to continue to keep doing that. I'm going to find opportunities to sell your work because I know that you have my back, I have your back, and I want to continue to foster and appreciate that relationship through more sales. So I think that is really important. And then, as I mentioned, that feedback element. I think the artists who we sell the most of are open to feedback and they want feedback. Okay, what's selling? What can I do to kind of fine tune the art that I'm creating so that it does sell? And that doesn't have to be like, a blanket statement. That doesn't mean you can't explore and do the things that you enjoy creatively and you can't express yourself in new ways. It just means this is what's working for us. If you continue to go in this direction, I think we can have a lot of success with selling the
Hmm.
work.
Yeah, I think I know for me with the galleries I work with or shops that I work with, it's I try to use data to influence what I give them again
Mm-hmm.
because I want to
Mm-hmm.
show that I want to see that sales have happened on those items so that I just give them more of the things that have sold.
Yeah.
Um, and I already diversify in so many different ways of selling. So like I only have so much inventory and it makes it difficult to know
Mm-hmm.
where I should put my eggs in what basket so that I have the
Yeah.
best chance of sales. So um in that aspect, I try to approach it pretty analytically, but I would imagine some artists aren't that data driven and they're like, they wait for you to tell them what they you
Right.
need from them or they just bring whatever and then they're like,
Yeah.
you take care of it and you sell it.
Yeah. I think, and in that case, when there isn't, when somebody is just kind of waiting for direction, I think we are able to edit what they're bringing in, like, here's a batch of work. Okay, well, I'm not going to, if there's something that's not, I don't feel is going to um, either, do well here or it doesn't work with what we're doing, that's okay. Like, not every, I can't, I don't have the ability to sell everything, but I can do the best I can to edit and take from, a group of work and select pieces that I think I can do well with.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. And I also think about the you mentioned them different hats earlier. The like you got
Mm-hmm.
to do everything. And I
Yeah.
think it is a good call out because there's like with social media, it's like you see the possibility. There's people that have success and they like
Yeah.
go viral and they get all these sales and they have the sell out method. They have that kind of formula figured out. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I want that. I just want to be able to make stuff, sell it online, ship it. Maybe you have somebody to help you ship it. And
Yeah.
like it just feels like a cycle that just continues and then you kind of become robotic to it. and you just kind of become fulfilling, doing the work, and you have a job again. You're just like doing
Yeah,
the thing
yeah,
because
yeah,
the
yeah.
sales are there. And it's like, I think partnering with a gallery or in some way to find what works for you is still an opportunity out there, where some people are like, oh, well, like these days, like the internet, you don't really need them. But it's like, no, I just don't want to do everything myself.
Right. I think it it really like dilutes the value of what you're truly good at, like
Hmm.
being able to, I think that's what makes Jeff so successful is he's able to lock in and do what he does best and what he wants to be doing. And he's not concerning himself with trying to manage his image online, trying to document his pieces, trying to sell the pieces, trying to keep up with his website, all of these different,
Answer all
tell
the
his
questions from
story, answer
people.
these
There's,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah, how much is it to ship this? Da, 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 so on and so forth. He
yeah.
can really tune out the noise and do truly what he's best at. And I think, you know, it's just like, honestly, that's a very, like you said, that's like the epitome of what everybody wants to be able to
Hmm.
do that. It's like, it's very unusual. And, yeah, I don't even know if I could write a formula for other people to, like, okay, here's what you need to do. Step one, step two, I
Hmm.
think it is just a lot of like magic and luck that he and I are timing.
Oh, it's
And,
absolutely so much
you
luck.
know, right. It's all of those things. Yes.
Yes, Becca.
um apart from Jeff, who is obviously like a diamond in the rough, I feel like,
Hmm.
do you think that like do you think that galleries just generally, or maybe just your gallery, I don't know, but like over time, do you think that like sales have been good? Have they kind of like gone up and down? Is it like something that is still like a solid choice? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it something that like are people buying art? I guess, are
Yeah, they
people
are.
buying art? You know?
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say at times, yes, do our sales reflect like
The
the
economy.
economy?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Like, think about the pandemic. I think the opposite happened then, where people were, had this idea that things weren't going well, but for our industry, it was insane. People were home looking
Yeah.
at bare walls and trying to, bring some joy to their personal spaces. So we had, our business boomed during that time. But I would say,
Hey, it's Taylor, here to tell you about another great way to improve your pottery making. If you've ever wished your carving tools were just a little more flexible, Bushcraft might be worth a look. The Dragonfly system from Bushcraft lets you either grab a single handle and blade to get started, or go with the starter detail kit, which comes with 3 handles and 8 blades, so you can try out a range of marks and keep multiple tools ready to go. The handle feels really natural, more like holding a pen, and everything locks in tight. And when you want to switch blades, it's quick. You don't need any extra tools. They offer a lot of blade shapes depending on how you like to carve, from fine detail work to more aggressive cuts. And the nice part is, it's not expensive to keep up with. Replacement blades are affordable, so you can actually use them as much as you want. If you want to check it out, head to bushcraft.shop and use code BKWheelTalk26 for 15% off your order. That's BUSCHKRAFT.shop and use code BKWheelTalk26. Some exclusions may apply. Okay, back to the show.
we just through creativity and a desire to continue to like push forward even when sales aren't as great. I think it just requires, yeah, creativity. I mean, I don't think Jeff's influx in sales came out of a need for them necessarily, but more so, seeing an opportunity there where his art is approachably priced and it's fun and there's a universal quality to it. And so yes, there's an opportunity to focus on something that is doing well. So I think we've been very consistent, and I think a lot of that has to do with just, you know, putting our heads down and working hard, and from experience, and trying new things and not being afraid to try new things. So
Yeah.
What
but
are
yes,
what's
people
like
are
the
buying art.
what's like the range of the prices of the work that you all have in the gallery?
It's very vast. We have, you know, like Jeff's work for, as you know, like $35 up to, you know, more collectible pieces that are, you know, 30 to 50,000, with some of them being, you know, even higher than that. Those are not the majority though, but we do a great part of our business that I don't necessarily promote as well as I should on social media is resale. So I would say like 30% of our business is resale consignment, where we have our collectors who've either divested their own collections, they've inherited art that maybe isn't to their taste, or, you know, they're just serial collectors who want to resell their art, and we put the pieces on consignment and we sell them for them. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I didn't
it's a
even know that was
really,
a thing.
I know, well, I know it's something, it's like I only
Wow.
have so many hours in a day to promote the different
Because
parts of the
also that
business.
work might not fit with the vibe of the gallery, so it's kind of like an
Oh,
interesting
100%. Yeah.
so it's an
It's
interesting place to be. And then you're like promoting something that you're like sending on an email list. We've got a new set of work, and they're like, that doesn't look like their normal stuff. What is this? But
yeah,
it's very unique.
I think that's why we've kind of segmented the business in such a way that Jeff and kind of our more whimsical, you know, art is under the Gallery Girl. And then within, you know, EF Gallery itself, we have private collections, which that refers to the consigned work. So they are two different audiences. And my hope is always to infuse the audiences together and create funnels for people to find both of them. And, you know, wherever they end up is, it doesn't really matter because it's all one pot, but they're definitely, we are always trying to find new ways to introduce people to new art, whether it be resale work that's very eclectic and, $50 or something. It's an unknown artist, or it's a piece that's by a very well-known artist like Wayne Thiebaud. You know, we're always trying to introduce new artists and new price points to people, because you just never know what's going to be of interest.
Mm-hmm. I had kind of a pricing question. I know we talked about it on the podcast before, and Beck is definitely a big proponent of like pricing your work for wholesale first, so that you can, and then coming up with your retail price from there. And I'm kind of thinking about making sure that the work is viable to be sold at the price that it, in a way of like what the cut is going to be in the end, where it's like, oh, that makes sense. Because in my own work, I'm like, my elevated work that is nicer and is like fancier, it's probably more like gallery quality, is like, oh, I feel like I can't wholesale that because I can't keep up with the demand enough. So, but then it also dumbs down kind of like the ceiling of what I can deliver to the gallery to make money on, because it's production. So it's like, it's a balance of like, what type of work should I be taking that makes sense for me as an artist, but also not underpricing. So it's like, because I don't have enough buyers to buy it at like, instead of a $70 item, like pricing it at $110 is like,
Yeah.
ooh, it scares me to not sell it.
Yeah.
Is that something that, like, adding on to that, is that something that you would be like, if somebody came in and they were like way too low, in your opinion, would you give them your opinion? Like, would you be
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of part of our, for lack of a better
Shtick.
word, expertise, right? Like
Yeah.
I see enough art, and there, it's hard because pricing is so arbitrary. I think it can be very frustrating for both the artist and the gallery when logic is not necessarily a part of the equation. For me, I really like, I do have like a formula that I kind of like to start with. And this is something that Elliot taught me from the very beginning. And that is for, you know, artists who are newly pursuing the gallery space. For us, we've found the best way to do that is to start as low as possible. So like you were saying, Ryan, like for your bottom line, what is the lowest possible that where it kind of hurts, you know, you're like, oh, sold that piece, but oh, that hurt a little bit. You know, starting as low as possible in order to create that demand. Once the demand presents itself, then at that point, raising your prices 10% in a very calculated incremental way so that there is logic to it and you're seeing, you know, that steady rise. One thing that I find really interesting that I've noticed a lot from, you know, even emerging artists, mid-career artists, is that they have this number in mind that they want to sell their work for. They're like, oh man, I want to sell my work for $8,500. Okay, well that's great. And maybe you can work up to that. But oftentimes I think it's like, okay, you could sell that one piece for $8,500, or you can sell 15 pieces for $1,200. And yes, there is more work, but each sale is like a little pat on the back, a little uptick in your confidence, right? So having that regular cadence of sales, in my opinion, far outweighs having one big sale, because that one big sale, yeah, you're going to have like that rush of adrenaline that's like, oh, I made the one sale. But then you're just going to go back reaching for that next higher thing, right? When having these, maybe you're not making as much per sale, but having that regularity, there's something you can build momentum from. You can keep going and you see, okay, now I can actually get a better vision of what is selling, and, you know, being able to actually use that as data for you to continue working up towards making more on each piece. But it's incremental, it's prescribed, it's logical. And that also brings me kind of to like pricing based on size. That's something that I don't know that's as applicable with ceramics and pottery. I don't know, you know, just because something's larger doesn't mean more effort was put into it. That also goes for, you know, paintings too, but
you know, if it has a handle.
There you go.
If it has a handle. No, I actually think that you said that very eloquently, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that that's something that's really hard for artists, because typically the way that it's presented is quantity versus quality. And I think that especially with today's like social media platforms and everything like that, you've got newbies coming out and selling mugs for $400, and you're like, what the fuck? Sorry, excuse my language.
No, I get
it. But you're like, what, you know, why is this happening, you know? And then you finally get a cup like that and you're like, this is not worth that. And there's like this reasonable build that is so satisfying.
Exactly.
You know, that I think is really sustainable. And the thing about artists that I notice more and more is that it's a career, it's a job, and it's something that has to be sustainable. You know, it's not something that's just a one-hit wonder. And because a one-hit wonder never gives you extra things, especially in the ceramics world, right? You can't hit it once and then expect to get proceeds from that forever. You know, so it's not a song. So, you know, but I think that you said that really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's, like I said, something that Elliot really stood on, especially when new artists would come in and ask for advice. And I think it's really worked out for us very well. You know, I have multiple artists that we've worked for, I mean, I don't think, you know, 20 years, which is funny to think that, since I don't feel like I'm old enough to say that, but who you can see the progression of their work, where they started, what price point, and where they're at now. And they have, you know, the demand to warrant that pricing. And yeah, it's neat to see it in effect. And I think it brings confidence, which I think is so important.
And I think like for me, I post a lot of numbers online and I get a lot of questions of like, well, after all the expenses, how much did you make? And I
Hmm.
think there's this like perception of like getting it all back to like an hourly wage
Yeah.
that it's just like a losing game
Yeah.
because it's not the same thing. Like you're living a
No.
creative life, you're making work, like to just nickel and dime your hours to a dollar figure every hour, it's not the
Hmm.
same. And it
No.
just confuses that pricing game of like, well, you spent 8 hours doing that. How much did you cost? How much did you charge for it? How much did you get for it after fees and all that stuff? You made, however much money. How much was that hourly? And then it's like, I don't know. It's like a different mindset. And to try to explain that to people that it's not about getting to an hourly wage.
Yeah, I think that can be especially confusing for the collector as well. And that's something that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of artists don't consider. For us, and I'm speaking most specifically about two-dimensional art because that you can, it's very obvious when something is, a 12 by 12 by an artist, and that's priced at, look for just round numbers. Let's say their 12 by 12 is $100. And then they have this 6 by 6 painting that's like $8,000. I think you automatically create a bias in the
Mm-hmm.
collector that somehow this smaller piece is better than the other. When I think if you're able to, like I mentioned, base the pricing on size and not and kind of overlook that what am I getting paid per hour thing, which is like I can't even begin to fathom how frustrating that must be as an artist. So I don't say that lightly. But when you are pricing based on time and whether subjectively you think it's a better piece than the other, you're creating this bias in the collector as they look at two pieces when they, if they didn't have that um, in their minds, maybe things would go a little bit differently. Um, and also, there's like you're establishing a level of trust with your collectors, right? Okay, so here's 10 pieces. They're priced based on size. They're very equitable to my previous, as far as quality, my previous collection of work, and your existing collectors are going to look at that and be like, okay, this makes sense, this is logical. I have a piece of theirs, it looks like things are trending in a certain direction. There's just that, yeah, leveling of consistency that's also really important that I think sometimes artists fail to recognize, that there are savvy collectors who are looking and they do question those kinds of things. So why is this one more expensive? Well, it's the artist
Hmm.
thought it was better, that's why.
Yeah.
And it's so personal. So
Yeah, it's
I
subjective. It's like, I
yeah,
really love that one. I don't want to
I
get rid of
know.
it, but you price it
I
so high that you don't want to, it's got to
right.
make it worth your while. I don't know. Yeah, pricing
Yeah.
is
Oh,
going to
there's
continue to be a tough one, but
yeah. Yeah, it
whew.
is tough. And I think the artist is so close with the work, and you see all of those areas that gave you grief, all of the areas that you triumphed and made even better than you thought. And then to have, this other party looking at it, deciding whether it's for them or not, and like
Hmm.
just a blanket kind of opinion is hard. So there is
Yeah,
that
a little
disconnect.
gut punch if people aren't willing to spend the money at that rate. You're
Right.
like,
Right.
but it's like you're saying I'm not valuable for the thing that I put my heart and soul into.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just the audience isn't there, and you need to be in the right audience or the right.
Exactly. I think that's a really, really good point. Is like I mentioned, when you're looking for a gallery that attracts the audience that would like your work, that's so important. I think there's nothing wrong with, if you're specializing in like Jeff Funk ceramics, what's a gallery that has that kind of edge to it, that's kind of silly, that's a little
Mm-hmm.
whimsical. Okay, well, there's people that are coming there already to buy and collect work like that. Typically that means they're going to want more of it.
Hmm.
So there is something to be said about, what the specialty of the gallery is.
All right, conscious of time here. We'll wrap up here. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Michelle, for your time.
Yeah,
It was great
absolutely.
learning about the gallery side of things,
Thank you.
and to
I
meet you
appreciate you having me.
virtually.
Yeah,
And
yes, likewise. I'll give you a little wave in our comments. I appreciate the
yeah,
support that you guys have been so um, consistent with. We really value that so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here too. So thank you.
Yeah, I just love
Yeah,
to
thank
see
you.
artists that find things that work with them, work for them, and then it's like seeing that joy and just seeing him as an example,
Yeah.
Jeff as an example of like what you can have, and you don't have to be 50 years into your career to get that. It's just like
Yeah.
finding that works, and then
Yeah, and it's all
it's just like
like
lightning in a bottle. It's like
totally not
with
to
a lot of work
like
behind the scenes, but
yeah, not to continue like the conversation forever, but I think one thing that I should mention that Jeff does really well is I think I've mentioned staying in your lane. Like he knows what he does well, and um, he has done the same thing for decades. This is what he enjoys. This is, and now he can, use sales to back that up. But before, it was simply about what did he love making and how am I going to make what I love making even better. So I think not trying to be great at everything is an important lesson for just anyone. Like we talked about with the gallery artist relationships, doing what you're good at and respecting the other person for doing that. But I think there's something to be said about really honing in and focusing on the thing that you love most and seeing where that takes
that's
you.
how you build that mastery and just
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that could be a whole
and that's what people look
podcast.
for. They look for that thing that's unique and very masterful.
Yeah.
So Michelle, thank you so much. If people want to see those videos, where do they go? How do they see them? I've seen them.
Yes, you can go to our Instagram. Our handle is at EF Gallery, and we post Jeff frequently. He does not have social media, so I make my best efforts to show him as frequently as possible because people just love it. But yeah, we do drops every other month or so, and then have other inventory that he's excited about filtering in through monthly. So there's always something to be
Always
collected.
exciting to see what seasonally is going to come
Yeah,
up.
I know.
I think saw some stuff for July 4th coming up with some cakes and things
We've got
that are
some hot
looking
dogs,
cool.
burgers.
Oh man, the hot dogs. My assistant loves hot dogs, so that'd be
They're
good
so
too.
fun. They're
Awesome.
so
Thank you so
fun.
much, Michelle.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank
everybody,
you.
thanks for
Take
listening.
care.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, all. Thank you for listening to the show. And we also want to thank Lindy and Ashley for all their help with everything that they've done over the years for Whale Talk. They are our Instagram heroes, and they answer all your questions and then send them to us if we need to. And we also want to thank you for listening and also participating. If you want to support our show, the best way to do that is to send us questions and to review us on whichever platform you are. So we haven't had very many reviews so far. I mean, you can even leave us a bad review. We'll make fun of you, but you can. And sending us questions always helps us with every episode that we do so that we can make it the best that we can. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, and I hope you enjoy this season.